You know how everyone says memory foam was invented by NASA for astronauts. Like it was cooked up in some zero-G lab, floated down from a spaceship maybe, and landed right in our bedrooms. Specifically designed to cushion them during re-entry or something like that. It's just one of those stories that, well, it feels right, doesn't it? It has this incredible ring of like scientific destiny about it.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's truly fascinating, I think, is how deeply ingrained that narrative has become
Hmm.
in, our collective understanding. It's a marketing superpower, really.
Yeah.
That association with NASA, it just instantly conjures up this aura of scientific sophistication, you know,
Yeah.
cutting edge stuff, futuristic appeal. And let's be honest, that perception it's profoundly shaped public opinion. It fuels consumer interest. And yeah, it justifies the premium pricing we often see for memory foam products. But while there's a kernel of truth in there about NASA's involvement, the full story is it's far more nuanced,
Yeah.
more complex, and I think ultimately maybe even more surprising than the myth itself.
I completely agree. It's kind of wild how accepted it is. So, for this deep dive, our mission really is to dig into the real story behind what we're calling the space myth of memory foam. We're going to try and set the record straight. Not to diminish the value or the comfort of memory foam, because it really is fantastic stuff, but to help you appreciate its actual journey maybe even more. We're going beyond those catchy marketing claims to discover the genuine evolution of this pretty remarkable material. It's quite a story. All right, let's really dig into what people think happened here. When we talk about this widespread belief, what are the most common misconceptions you run into? What's the popular story everyone tells? Is it always like space shuttle seating or created in zero G, that kind of thing?
Oh, absolutely. All of those. The narrative is incredibly specific in the public mind, isn't it? People often picture it being invented in space, the vacuum of space, or maybe deep inside NASA labs specifically. For protecting astronauts from G-forces, physical stresses of space travel, that sort of thing. The claims get quite vivid,
Yeah, yeah.
used in space shuttle seating or even the spacesuits themselves, or maybe created in zero-gravity environments, like you said, explicitly engineered for astronaut comfort on long missions. The biggest one, perhaps, is this idea that NASA directly designed the very foam that's in your mattress today, that it was born among the stars and then poof, it's in your bedroom.
Right, exactly. You hear those phrases, space age material or NASA-inspired comfort, and your mind just paints this picture, something really out there brought back for us.
And that's precisely where these persistent marketing narratives have really blurred the lines between inspiration and actual direct invention. Because the truth is, none of those specific vivid claims are fully accurate. The idea was created in zero-G, nope, or that it was a standard, widespread part of spacesuits or shuttle seats, also not really true. Or even that NASA directly engineered your mattress's foam. These are all enduring misconceptions. It's a classic, compelling story, and it has definitely stuck.
Okay, so, wow. If it wasn't cradling astronauts during reentry or, helping them sleep soundly up there in microgravity, where does the truth actually lie? If it wasn't invented in space or for space missions specifically, what was NASA's actual involvement? Because I know there is a connection, right? Otherwise, the myth wouldn't have any legs at all.
You're spot on. There absolutely is a connection. But it's quite different from the popular story. The material itself was developed right here on Earth back in 1966. NASA actually had a research contract, with an aeronautical engineer, Charles Yost. But this wasn't about developing foam for like the moon landing or Skylab or anything like that. Crucially, the purpose of that contract was to improve crash protection and seating comfort for aircraft. That's a really significant distinction.
Aircraft, like airplanes.
Exactly. We're having pilot seats, maybe passenger seats too, in military and commercial planes, designed to absorb impact if there was an accident, and all that pioneering research. It happened in, normal labs,
Right.
terrestrial labs, Earth's gravity, not in orbit, not on a spaceship.
Wow. Okay, so the space age material wasn't actually for space at all. That's a huge twist for so many of us. I mean, I
Wow.
totally pictured it being made in some like sealed, sterile, clean room, ready for the void.
Indeed. And what Yost developed was this new type of viscoelastic polyurethane foam, basically, what we now call memory foam.
Mm.
Its design was very specific, engineered to absorb kinetic energy, shock, and then slowly return to its original shape. So it provides both cushioning and protection. Think about the intense G-forces pilots might experience, especially during unexpected maneuvers or, heaven forbid, a crash. This foam was meant to distribute those forces better, reduce peak pressure points, offer greater safety, so its intended use. Squarely focused on aircraft safety. Pilot comfort on long flights, definitely not astronaut comfort in microgravity. And Yeah, despite the link to NASA's research funding, it was actually never widely adopted for in-space use. It might have been, looked at,
Hmm.
evaluated for certain aerospace applications, maybe some prototypes, perhaps some very early limited uses on like earthbound training equipment. But as ever a standard widespread thing, not in astronaut seats or equipment during actual missions. It was really considered for pilot safety in aircraft crashes. That was the focus, not for astronauts just floating around.
That is a huge clarification.
Yeah.
Pilot safety during crashes. It's such a stark contrast to the, luxurious comfort we associate it with now. But okay then. If it wasn't used much in space, and its main aerospace application was pretty specific to aircraft safety, how on earth did it end up in my mattress? And my pillow?
That's the leap, right? The leap most people miss entirely.
And this is where NASA's vital, but yeah, often misunderstood role really comes in. What NASA did, and what they do with a lot of publicly funded innovations, is they transferred the technology, made it available to the public through their technology transfer program. It's a whole part of their mission.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the program is specifically designed to make sure that taxpayer-funded research and innovations like Yost's foam actually have tangible, real-world benefits for everybody. It's about getting these good ideas out of the government labs and into the economy, into products people can use.
So NASA kind of put the recipe out there. Sort of, yeah. They made the fundamental technology available. Then, in the 1980s and 1990s, private companies saw the potential. They recognized this unique material had possibilities. They took that base technology, this stuff developed under the NASA contract, and then they invested heavily. They refined it, they worked on it, they commercialized it for consumer uses. And look, this wasn't just a simple handoff. The original foam, it had challenges. It was apparently quite temperature sensitive, very dense, pretty expensive to make in large quantities. So private industry had to figure out how to make it, more consistent, more durable, cheaper to produce, and actually comfortable for everyday use.
Right. So it wasn't just like they slapped a NASA label on the original stuff and started selling it. Companies really had to innovate quite a bit on top of that initial research.
Exactly right. They iterated on the chemical formulas, they improved the manufacturing processes, they brought the cost down, and initially didn't even see it in beds. It popped up first in more specialized things, like medical cushions for hospital patients, people at risk of pressure sores,
Right.
or in sports equipment, helmets, padding, that kind of thing, to absorb impact. Only then, after more refinement, more development, did it really find its way into the mass market for mattresses and pillows. And yeah, it pretty much revolutionized the bedding industry at that point.
Wow.
This whole process, it's actually a fantastic example of how public research can spark incredible private innovation, creating whole new industries, new products. It's really part of NASA's broader legacy. Things like scratch-resistant lenses for glasses, freeze-dried food, even some types of improved smoke detectors.
Yeah.
They all have roots in NASA-funded research that was then transferred out.
That's a really fascinating look at how innovation actually moves. From the lab to our actual homes, it's not always a straight line. But knowing all that, why does this myth, the space myth, persist so strongly, even when the truth, which is honestly just as compelling, is out there? I mean, it's so pervasive, it's almost like gospel for some people.
Well, like we said before, that association with NASA, it's just incredibly powerful, isn't it? It evokes trust, innovation, prestige, like almost nothing else. It makes a product feel instantly credible, futuristic, high-tech. So marketers have, well, naturally leaned into this narrative.
Yeah.
And yeah, often blurring the lines between, say, inspiration from aerospace needs and direct spacebound invention. Those phrases like space-age material and NASA-designed comfort, they're not just buzzwords. They're incredibly effective emotional triggers for consumers. And over time, I think this myth just solidified in the public mind for a few reasons. First, it's just a simpler story, right? More exciting than the actual, more complex path. Initial research contract, then tech transfer, then private refinement, then commercialization. Humans, we love a straightforward, heroic origin story. It's easier to grasp. Second, it really taps into our sort of aspirational view of space and technology. I mean, who wouldn't want to sleep on something supposedly designed for astronauts? It sounds cool. And finally, it benefits from a kind of, well, narrative inertia. Once a story takes hold, especially one that have that tiny kernel of truth, that NASA was involved somehow, it's incredibly hard to dislodge. So yeah, conflating that research contract and the later tech transfer with a direct spacebound invention, it fundamentally distorts the facts, but makes for a really captivating, sticky narrative that sells.
Right. Makes total sense. So, okay, wrapping this up. What does this all mean for us as consumers? Memory foam is still, it's an absolutely remarkable material, myth or no myth, right?
Yeah.
Its ability to conform to your body shape, distribute weight evenly, reduce those pressure points, it has made it genuinely invaluable in so many ways.
Absolutely. It's real-world importance. You can't deny it. In healthcare settings, improving patient comfort and safety. In aviation safety, which was its original inspiration point, and yes, of course, providing comfort in consumer bedding, it's undeniable. And its true history, rooted in that publicly funded research aimed at saving lives in airplanes right here on Earth, and then improved and brought to market through the ingenuity of private industry. That's actually a fantastic testament. It shows productive collaboration between science, government, and commerce. It's a success story on its own merits, and maybe, just maybe, it's even more impressive when you understand that full, complex journey it took.
I completely agree. Its origins, they don't lie out there in space. They lie right here on Earth, in that intersection of engineering, safety research, and yeah, smart commercialization. And as consumers, we really benefit most when we celebrate innovation for what it truly is, the full, sometimes messy journey, not just what the marketing suggests it is. The real story, I think, is arguably even more impressive than the myth. So maybe this raises an important question for you to think about, long after this deep dive is over. How many other common knowledge facts, things about everyday objects that we just accept without question, how many might have a far more fascinating and maybe more grounded story than we realize? Maybe appreciating the actual journey of innovation, the hard work, the unexpected turns, the brilliant minds behind it all. Maybe that's even more impressive, more satisfying than any manufactured myth. Something to ponder.